Welcome back to Library Nocturne. I'm your host, Black Fairy, and I'm so excited to have you here with me today. If you're new here, welcome, and I hope that you will stick around and see what I have to offer. Today, I want to talk about Bruce, okay? With Sheila Atim's new starring role in The Vampire Lestat as the vampire Akasha, I thought it would be a good moment to just do a little bit of a retrospective on a role for me of hers that was really impactful and a surprise, totally a surprise to see, honestly. I didn't even realize that I had seen her actually in the show Harlots, which is on Hulu, a couple years ago. It's been a little while since it came out, and I loved Harlots, and I remember that character, but I didn't know it was her. And so then she ended up starring in Halle Berry's directorial debut, Bruised, which is a movie on Netflix about Halle Berry as a like disgraced former MMA fighter, Jackie Justice, who she's looking for her comeback. And well, I wanted to say she's looking for it, actually. She stumbles upon it, and her greatness is recognized, and she is therefore incentivized into reclaiming her greatness, at least just reclaiming her dignity as a fighter. And Sheila Atim stars in the movie as Budokan, who is Jackie's trainer, and I would guess was supposed to be her corner person. Um, and it is a really dramatic movie, actually. I rewatched it this weekend recently with my bestie, and it was just way more dramatic than I even remembered. Like, I remembered the general beats, right? Like, Jackie Justice, somehow she's disgraced. She lost. She's living a life. She's scraping by, eking out an existence, if you will. And one night, somehow she's dragged into an underground fight. And at the underground fight, she is seen by a promoter who wants to, give her the opportunity to fight in a bigger televised fight against the champion, honestly, in an attempt to for her to get her dignity back as a fighter, for him to get a title card with two big names that will, draw this interest. We know how promoters work, especially for these fights and things and anything else you're trying to promote, you got to get those big names. So he gets her to sign up with them, and they begin training, and but it's all this other drama of really Jackie right now at current when the story begins is with her current manager, who is some Boricua man. He's just a man. He's not clearly not successful, obviously, and they have an abusive relationship. Honestly, I'm surprised they weren't actually violent with each other, because to me, as a fighter, someone managing a fighter, it could come easily if that's the situation. But it was clear that they had a lot of hostility between them. And so when Jackie, makes this change and she joins the new gym, she gets a trainer, it's also the fact of she has a son who she hasn't seen, who she hasn't been taking care of for the last 6 years. And the father is murdered. And so now he's on her doorstep. And additionally, he is, going through what it seems like selective mutism as a result of the trauma he experienced with his father and his father's death. And so it's really all of these super complex emotional components that actually went into the story. I just thought, okay, she's struggling. She's trying to figure out her dreams. Maybe like more like a Creed story, you know what I mean? Where the biggest drama is just overcoming that hill of being great. But this one was really dramatic in the sense of like having all of these extra like elements to it of her being a mom, really being an absent mom, and now she's being thrust into active motherhood for the first time amidst this big change that she's trying to make in her life. And then the challenges that just come with in general raising a child, but also a child with selective mutism, you know. I definitely think that disability and disabled children and disabled people in the Black community, our stories are being heard more, and I think more narratives are, coming out there and being propagated, but it's still amazing every time you see one, and every time the realities of what that means for the parent, what that means for the child, what that means for the family around them. I think is always a fascinating and very necessary depiction on the screen, because Black people be disabled. Like, I feel like there's some idea, and I know a lot of people could probably attest to, the idea of great Black stock, but the truth of the matter is we've been here a long time. A lot of things have happened, and that means that there's probably been some modifications along the way genetically. There probably means that there's been some changes. You know what I mean? Like, I think these stories just serve as a reminder of the realism and of the reality of having kids in general. And this goes for anybody. Like, if you are not prepared to potentially have a child who is disabled, who could need care 24/7, or just has to live a modified lifestyle, or, something that, feel like isn't acceptable. I'm thinking of like children with autism when they have like the meltdowns and things like that. There's a lot of societal pressure against those things, systemic oppression. But I do think just seeing the stories as a start is helpful. I think seeing the stories as a start is helpful. Just because, who's to say, like, who, you know what I mean? What other characters can, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just important. And the most unexpected part of the whole movie, especially upon the first watching, was Halle Berry's character being at least bisexual, as she begins an intimate relationship with her trainer, played by Sheila Atim, Budokan. And I mean, listen, I love when the story gets sapphic as much as any real, true person of this earth. But it was dramatic in that way, and I think it was unfortunately really realistic and not just even for sapphic women, not even just for the gay community, just for relationships where, where the intimacy comes in and where sex comes in, and the effects that can have on a relationship when there's already other relationships being managed within that relationship. Take a shot every time I say relationship. But I would love another word, because I think relationship does so much work in our lexicon, because when you want to say your romantic partner, oh, I'm in a relationship. But truthfully, you're in a relationship with everyone that you know and everyone that you meet. And I would say even that you don't meet. Like your relationship to a stranger is you're strangers. That's the relationship. Like relationship is a constant state of being, and is a constant negotiation. So I did feel like, okay, you seen that she had this drama with her former manager, this man, the baby's here, and that's a wrench, and the mama, and she's off her pill, she's good, she's feeling nice. Like, and then now you guys try to throw sex in it. That, you know what I'm saying, coming from all of that, like that's not really the time. You're about to fight this big fight, trying to come back, really change your life. It's not time to be trying to get with the trainer. You know what I'm saying? And it was really interesting watching that dynamic unfold, because I think it speaks to how, when boundaries aren't clear, when they're crossed, when intentions aren't clear, or when they're ignored, how much chaos that can sow in a life and in a moment and in a trajectory. And it was like really heartbreaking to see, but it was very realistic to see. And I thought Halle Berry's direction in the movie was amazing, honestly, for the story that was told. Like it just really flowed, and I really believed her as Jackie Justice. Like, I think honestly that might have been one of the best movie Halle Berry's ever done. Like, so serious. I'm so serious. Like, I really think it is. And I think there's something to be said, of course, because she directed it and she starred in it. But, her character in it wasn't just like a hero. Like, she struggled, she went through real life. As a child, she had struggles, and those things mattered, and her mental health mattered. And, it just touched on so many things that are relevant today, unfortunately, to our community. Abuse, substance abuse. I don't even know what you say on YouTube, but, just all of these really heavy things that make a life. And, it was just unfortunate to see that they could have just slowed it down. Like, as the fighter, you're not even supposed to be having sex before your big matches, before your big games. You're not even supposed to be doing that. So it did feel like, okay, so now y'all doing all this, but now it's drama. And it did end up that then Budokan was not in Jackie's corner in the match, and I do think that turned the tide of the match. And Jackie did a great job. She lasted all 5 rounds to the end, but she didn't win. But she got her respect back. But I think she could have won if Budokan had been there. Or she was too busy getting drunk and breaking her arm. By the time we see her again, it's like with the cat drug and arm broken in tow. So, I do think that it's just a good movie, and I would encourage you to watch it if you haven't. If you have, give it a rewatch. Tell me what you think about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, who do you feel like was in the right or in the wrong, even in the situation between Justice and Budokan? Because I had a conversation with one of my friends, and there was some debate about, like, do you feel like Halle did too much? Was she wrong? Or do you feel like the trainer Budokan did too much? And, honestly, I was like, look, as the trainer, you gotta keep your focus because you're here to train. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it takes 2 to tango, but I think seeing the situation that, because Budokan saw firsthand the sort of situation that Jackie was going through and had just left, like none of this dust had settled. it did seem like, okay, well, she just went through a lot of craziness. Does she really seem like she's ready for like a relationship right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, she has this child and you're ready to jump in and help because you've had a wife, you have a child out there. This is all new for Jackie. So you're trying to be, you know what I'm saying, the stud that stepped up, but she's just trying to make it to that fight. You know what I'm saying? And I do think it highlighted a very important dynamic between like a mentee and a mentor, or like a person and their caregiver, or like, when there's just that sort of big little sort of dynamic. Like as a trainer, Jackie is there to listen to her trainer. She, of course, puts her input, and she's a person, she makes decisions, she has autonomy. But for the purpose of this relationship, she's there to listen. You know what I'm saying? And she's there to take on the wisdom. And as the trainer, Budokan has been there to listen and to help and to be there when the child is, you know what I'm saying, feeling anxious and stressed. And she's there to help them out when Jackie gets kicked out, honestly. So, I do think there needs to be more thought about the types of relationships we have with each other and what is appropriate for those roles and what are our intentions if they change. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a really reflective film. You know what I'm saying? Um, I loved it. You know what I'm saying? Even this time around, even though I was so shocked at the amount of actual drama, I think it was realistic. I don't think it was gratuitous, and I think it resolved appropriately where, it wasn't just, okay, then Jackie wins it all, even though I would have loved to see that. I love when a hero triumphs. But but she made an admirable effort and she gave her best and she didn't quit and she, you know what I'm saying, tried again. Like all of these really important tenets that they're said so much, and sometimes they can be used as bludgeoning tools, you know, some bootstrap, you know what I'm saying, narrative, some bootstrap axioms. But at the end of the day, like, even when you're doing stuff you love, that's still true. Like, you still do have to show up day in and day out, and you have to give it your best. And maybe it's not 100% every day, but you got to give it some every day, you know what I'm saying, until you can get your consistency. If that's what you're after, you do have to have a little bit of discipline to make whatever your goals are reality. And I just felt like it was just a good reminder from a microcosm to a macrocosm perspective, once you zoom out of like the particulars of Jackie's story, and then you just get into what it means and what it means for all of us as humans. Um so yeah, I just really loved it. I just really had a great time watching it again. It was very all is well that ends well, because spoiler, spoiler, because then the young man, her son, Manny, does in fact speak by the end of the movie. So, I do think that is a little like, I don't want the narrative around children with disabilities or people with disabilities to necessarily always be solving or fixing the disability or curing, you know what I'm saying? Um, but I do think it was nice because, if he wants to express himself verbally, he deserves to be able to have the ability to do that, and likewise, if he didn't, he also deserved to be able to just rest in that as well and still have the support of his family around him, which he did. I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm just saying in terms of the narrative, just being sure that we're being careful that, like, the triumph isn't always, oh wow, now you don't have this disability anymore, because a lot of disabilities just don't work like that. And the state of disability as a concept is one that it's almost a totalizing force. Even if when you think about wearing glasses, I know people, it's so ubiquitous that people probably don't think about it that way, but how many of you out there wear glasses and then when you take them off, you like can't see? Like you can't navigate the world around you without those glasses. Like that is an ability aid. You know what I'm saying? That is a state in which just your function and your senses, without the intervention of an aid, a tool, it would be impaired. So, it's all around us and it's in us, it's about us, and therefore the messages are for us. So, I can just appreciate where the conversation starts. And I mean, he wasn't like, you know what I'm saying, spitting 82 hot bars by the end. They didn't go crazy with him start talking or anything, just a little word, one or two words. But you know what I mean? Like just making sure we're thinking about that perspective as well, that people do want and deserve relief from their conditions and they deserve that, but also having space for that not every condition is solvable per se. Maybe just only supportable, you know? So that's my little wrap up. I haven't even actually watched the Vampire Lestat to see her be Queen Akasha. Just because watching live shows makes me nervous. You never know where they're going these days. I gotta give it some time to air out, give it some time to breathe. But I am very excited for her, and that just, her career is keeping on going, and that, she's in these really impactful moments in film. And just, you know what I'm saying? Just keeping on, keeping on. So, shout out to Sheila Atim. Shout out to Halle Berry, for real. And thank you for joining me in another installment of Library Nocturne. I am Black Fairy, and I do hope you'll join me again. And I do hope you'll take care wherever you are. Ciao.